Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. I'm Blaine Duncan, joined by my brother and co-host Austin Duncan. Dude, what's going on? It's episode 3.
Dude, I'm loving it. I'm pumped to be back. It's been really nice seeing some of the nice comments and messages we've been getting. It's super cool, and people are asking how to support. The easiest way to do it is free, and if you can just drop a like or subscribe or anything interacting with our videos. I mean, right now we're just trying to get this thing off the ground and get going. So
we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I mean, anywhere you can find really podcasts, you can hit us up. And yeah, to Austin's point, I mean, thank you guys so much for those of you who've reached out and given us feedback on the show. It's always great to know that one thing that I found, I guess, really with the horror community, like the horror movie community, is that people are just so supportive of each other. And that's what I love about this community, even like going to conventions and things like that. Like people just, they get along and they want to see each other succeed. So not that we have any like grand plans or want to become famous or any notoriety from doing this. We just want to bring a show out to people who love the franchise as much as we do. And, just people that have fun with it and have a good time. So we definitely appreciate those of you who have reached out, those of you who have subscribed so far, and we're just happy to have episode 3 coming at you, and we're gonna keep these things coming, hopefully on a weekly basis here.
Yeah, and we got a banger today,
dude. I am so. When you and I first started talking about doing this podcast, we made our list of people, or our lists of people who we would want to have on the show, and we might as well bring them on right now. We're going to be talking with Matt from HalloweenDailyNews.com. And Matt, you were legit at the top of the list, and you are our first guest on the show. And we can't thank you enough for being here. Again, it's Matt from Halloween Daily News. If you haven't been to Halloween Daily News or don't know what it is, you're probably living under a rock, because it's the website that I have gone to your site for years now. You and I have had a lot of conversations and via Instagram or whatever it might be. And dude, I can't thank you enough for being on the program. We're obviously super excited to have you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and just how you started Halloween Daily News and really what it's about?
Sure. Oh man. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I mean, first guest, I'm honored, guys.
Absolutely.
This is awesome. And of course I could talk about this subject all day long. So I'm excited to be here as well. And but yeah, very honored to be your first guest. And man, what an intro. I really appreciate that, guys.
Absolutely.
And appreciate what you guys are doing here as well. I did listen to your first 2 episodes. Of course, I had to check them out before coming on here, and appreciate what you guys are doing here, and look forward to watching this show grow over time as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate the support, and like I said, in the intro here, it's such a great community of people, and Matt, I know you've been to many different conventions, and I'm sure you've seen it as well. That it's just the horror community is just there. It's a different group. They're so supportive. It's really at least from my experience, like a very non-judgmental group where people are just they're just really cool with each other.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're the best. I mean, it is the best community. And of course, I'm biased. I mean, the Halloween franchise is my favorite franchise. And, I consider it the best community of fans. And that does go back to the heart of what you were asking, kind of how we started HDN. It wasn't ever going to be focused only on the franchise, of course, but going back to 2012, way back in the fall of 2012, which in some respects seems like just yesterday, but we just celebrated our 10th anniversary last year.
Congratulations. That's super cool, man.
Thank you. It's been a wild ride. And the idea in the beginning was I had been working in journalism for pretty much my entire adult life in one form or another. And I worked did a lot of newspaper writing and photography over the years. But around 2012, my wife and I, Sue and I, we were launching a local entertainment news website, and we were branching out and doing other areas of our family business and different arms. And so one of those, just kind of more as a experiment at the time, was to launch Halloween Daily News in the fall of 2012. And the idea right from the beginning was just a hub of Halloween news. And of course, I love the holiday itself. I have my whole life. It's always been, and I just found myself at a point of, social media was just really starting to blow up around then. And I just, I was sharing it on my personal feeds and all, but and Bloody Disgusting is always great, but there was no like real place that I could find that would bring all things about the holiday itself together. And of course, a huge part of that is always going to be the Michael Myers Halloween movie franchise. And so we launched, and with the idea that, it would be all things Halloween. And obviously a big focus on there, of course, would be the Halloween movies and Halloween movies in general, other films, other franchises that dip into the Halloween holiday in various ways. But we wanted to cover all aspects. And that has just led to a decade of, like you said, horror conventions. That was right when we were going to our very first conventions. That coincided with meeting this community that you were just speaking about, and us kind of becoming aware of, wow, there really is this amazing community of like-minded people that we're all weirdos here, and this is perfect. This is where we belong.
It's so true.
This is our people. And so that was the idea, was just to kind of, have a destination, niche destination on the internet where it was Halloween every day. And that's what we've been doing for 10 years. And we cover everything from product releases and industry news to obviously horror movies, because horror movies, not just Michael Myers, but, all horror movies are part of the Halloween tradition as well, but none bigger than this franchise, obviously.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, I love the website, and obviously I follow you, and we both follow you on social media. And it's just, I think for people, Austin and I are exactly the same way. Like, we love Halloween. We live for not only the franchise, but like the day of Halloween, right? I mean, it's just, it's such a fun holiday. There's so much nostalgia for it. And I love the fact that is the center and the focus of what you're doing. It's just, it's like getting a little piece of Halloween every single day, or every time I see you do a new post or whatever it might be. So, man, I can't tell you how much I like it. It's good stuff. And it's always a lot of fun to just see what content you're coming out with, because there's no doubt that you have a lot of the sort of breaking news. There's a lot of things that you cover that you're not hearing about really anywhere else. I mean, it's like you're getting that information out and you're doing it quickly. So it's awesome, man. I can't thank you enough for doing what you're doing, because it, like I said, it brings a little piece of Halloween to our lives every single day. Yeah.
Some people got the New York Times. We got you. Weirdos like us, we got you.
We've got HalloweenDailyNews.com. You can't beat it. So let's just talk a little bit about go back to your first time seeing John Carpenter's Halloween. How old were you? Where were you? Tell us that story, and tell us, I guess really how the movie affected you, and how it obviously has influenced where you're at today with Halloween Daily News.
Sure. Excuse me. Yeah, I figured you would probably ask that, and I was thinking, it's funny. I don't know the exact moment that I watched the original film from start to finish, because it's one of those movies, and Michael Myers is one of those characters. It's just always been in my consciousness. You know what I mean? Like, pretty much as long as I can remember. Kind of like the first Star Wars movie. Like, it's just, I don't remember watching it for the first time. I was born in December of 75. So, I mean, when Star Wars and Halloween came out, I was barely a toddler. And so it was, but my earliest memory that I do go back to, and I've talked about this before, and I can share this, that it's not even watching the whole movie, but the kind of the earliest memory that I can remember of seeing some of it on TV. And I don't know how old I was. I'm guessing probably maybe around age 10, but I had definitely gone trick-or-treating that night. It was Halloween night, and we're in our TV room, our den, and I'm sorting through the candy, probably eating some of it. And the end of John Carpenter's Halloween, what I now know is the end of John Carpenter's Halloween, was on. And I'm not really, it's kind of there, and I'm aware of it and curious, but I'm not really watching, but I'm kind of watching. But I remember being aware of it even then, of how creepy this masked character was. But I still remember that I was struck even at that young age by the fact that immediately after the movie ended and this music hit, which gave me goosebumps and still does. But then whatever network was airing it, they went right into the sequel, Halloween 2. And even my brain at that time was able to recognize, wow, this is interesting because this just ended and here it is picking up a minute later with the next movie, and it's got this cool music that I'm hearing for the first time, and I think that's probably the first time I was somewhat aware of it, at least that it made an impact that I can still remember all these years later, probably about approximately 4 decades later.
Sure. No, that's awesome, man. So you probably then, at that point in time, if you were, roughly 10 years old, this is obviously, this is post Halloween 3, this is pre Halloween 4. So you really got you kind of were right in line with getting some of those really great sequels that came out, or like the heavy hitting sequels, I guess, where we got quite a few of them. Did you see, like, when Halloween 4 came out, do you remember that happening? Had it affected you enough that you went and saw it? Were you too young at that point? Or what did that look like? When did you really, when did you become, I don't want to say obsessed, because we're not obsessed with the movie or the series, but we're definitely fascinated by it. But when did you really start to kind of, really follow the series? And did you see Halloween 4 in the theaters?
I did not see Halloween 4 in the theaters. I do remember watching it not too long after that. It had to have been on cable, pretty soon after that, because I was still living at home, and obviously, but I do remember watching it on cable, and again, being infatuated somewhat by the mask, even though it was a different mask. In my mind at the time, it's still, it was all very new to me. It wasn't like today where we could pull up all the comparisons, of course, but I remember watching that. I hadn't seen Halloween 3, but I know that pretty soon after that, because I was always a big movie fan, even as a kid. And so as I got into like preteen and soon after that roughly 10-year-old experience, I did start gravitating more toward the original. And I started looking, when I was 13, Tim Burton's Batman came out. Nice. And that was a movie that made me really, I always say that's the movie that made me start paying attention more to the director than anything else about the film. Like before that, I looked at who was starring in the movie, but after that, I looked at who's making the movie, who's directing it, who's writing it first. And of course, John Carpenter was the director that I would find on all of these movies that I realized were all the movies that I kind of grown up. My dad would be watching in the 80s. And again, sometimes we'd watch them together, and sometimes it was just kind of in the background in my peripheral. I'm playing or eating Halloween candy. And then I started watching them for real and going through like the filmography, and Halloween was one that, just, it always stood out because I just have always loved the holiday. And it was right around the time of, Jason and Freddy, they were everywhere.
It was a great time for horror movies. Awesome time for horror movies. It was
amazing. It was an amazing time. But to me, even then, I remember feeling like, well, Michael Myers is the best of them. Like, I mean, no offense. I mean, but even then, like in my head, it was kind of like, well, this movie is like kind of the one that, inspired a lot of this other stuff. And I recognized that then. And then I just became more and more obsessed with Carpenter's work in general, his whole filmography, and seeking out anything that he had, directed or even touched. And that would ultimately lead to reappraising the original Halloween 2, which I always liked and knew, but going back and then really giving Halloween 3, a chance. And, which was years later down the road before I actually really, because I had seen it without really seeing it, you know what I mean? At an age where, it didn't really, I wasn't paying attention enough to like really soak it in. And because it didn't have the Michael Myers, and it wasn't what I was into at the time. Right. But years down the road, like many of us, I was able to watch it as an adult and really soak in what they were doing and what we all appreciate about it now.
Absolutely. And I think that brings up a really good point, because I feel like the story you just told and the connection with Halloween 3, there's probably so many fans who fall under that same, category, that same line of thinking, where I know I was like that. I know, Austin, you talked about that on the last episode, that Halloween 3, was originally in my mind, almost, it wasn't even a part of the franchise. Like, yes, it shared the same title, but it wasn't even a part of the franchise. And until you really watch it with a different kind of, look or viewpoint, you're not going to appreciate it. Because if you're just looking at it as like a Halloween movie, as far as like the, it being within the Halloween franchise, you are going to be disappointed because Michael's not in it. Right. And there's been so many people who've talked about it, but what you just said is exactly how I feel. And, there's no question that I'm sure, Austin, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure it's the exact same way.
Blaine, I remember growing up, you and I would skip Halloween 3 and we'd skip Friday 5 because they didn't have Michael, or they didn't have the real Jason. And now I look back, and those are two of my favorite horror movies in general.
Absolutely.
So it's just, once you give it a chance, it's so crazy how your opinion will change.
Yeah, I forgot about Friday 5, but you're right, because Friday 5, you've got this kind of faux fake Jason, and yeah, you do, if you're a true fan of that franchise, you really kind of you're taken back by that, and you're like, man, I don't want to watch that. I want to see Jason. I don't want to see, I don't want to see the paramedic be Jason. I want to see Jason, right? So no, that's awesome. And so let's fast forward then a little bit. So we're at, we're at 45 years this year, of the anniversary. David Gordon Green's trilogy just wrapped up. What are your thoughts on the entire trilogy? What did you think of 18 Kills and Ends? Were you overall, were you happy with it? Were you excited? What was your thoughts on the whole entire trilogy?
Oh man, overall, yeah, I've loved this recent trilogy of films. I really have, and it's been, a fun ride covering them through HDN and getting to know some of the people like James Jude Courtney and Christopher Nelson and some of the people involved in front and behind the camera. But yeah, I've really enjoyed these films, and I've said numerous times on our YouTube channel and at various places that these last 5 years have really been the best time that I can remember to be a fan of Michael Myers in this franchise. I mean, even if these three films aren't your favorites in the franchise, I mean, you can't deny it's been exciting having them come out. It's been exciting, all the attention that these characters have gotten and that they've been taken so seriously. And again, whether you love or hate story elements or whatever, I mean, having Jamie Lee Curtis come back and bring this gravitas almost to the Laurie Strode character that I really do credit these films for elevating that character to whole new heights. Right. I call them the Strode trilogy, and I talked to one of the co-writers, Paul Logan, and he liked that. And so I'm gonna keep calling it the Strode trilogy until somebody, David Gordon Green, disagrees. But
love that. That's good.
I feel like it, but I feel like it is. It's really Laurie's movie and her daughter and her granddaughter's movies. But these movies, more than we always knew, Laurie was important to this franchise. Fans of it did. And I think genre fans have always recognized what an important character she is to the genre and even to film cinema history at large. But I think these films really brought a much wider acknowledgement of that, of what we always knew was that this is a badass character and she's an archetype, that is resonates today, even more powerful than ever. And these films really leaned into that a lot. And I think, they're going to be remembered as the films that really put Laurie Strode, not that she was ever not on the map, but really truly on every level, equal footing with Michael, I think, when you take this trilogy as a whole. But I've really, really enjoyed them. I really have. And again, not the least of that is because I have gotten to know some people like James Jude Courtney. It's been a pleasure to get to talk to him and get to see him out at conventions like we mentioned, and his interaction with fans and to get to talk to him through the website and a little bit every now and then off the record and just a little behind the scenes chat every now and then. And it's just I love his work and his work ethic and everything that he's brought to the character as well. And and there's just a lot to chew on with these movies when you take them. I mean, you guys know, I mean, you're launching a podcast to chew on a lot of it. But there's a lot there. Even if you're just look at these most recent three, there's a lot you can talk about and a lot that's ripe for dissection and discussion.
Absolutely.
I think, and rewatchability too. You know, I always say that the older I get, the more importance I put on rewatchability. So
it's true.
You all have a lot of that.
You pick up on so many different things when you watch these movies again and again. And I think I mentioned this in the last podcast that being as big of a Halloween fan as I am and of Michael Myers and the entire story, when I first saw 18, there was something about it that it missed the mark for me a little bit. And I don't know why. I don't remember exactly why I was disappointed the first time I saw it. But after watching it now so many times, I'm like, it's awesome. Like it's a great movie. And I think it's just, you know, maybe it was intended not necessarily to be disappointing, obviously, when you first see it, but I think it was intended to, you pick up on more of the characters and what's going on, sort of the undertones of things. So it's been fun to be able to rewatch all of these movies. And you know, I'm doing the same thing, obviously, with Ends now. I've seen Ends, you know, maybe 4 or 5 times since Austin and I saw it in the theaters. But you know, that movie in itself, very polarizing, right? I mean, we have people out there who are legit trying to get the movie remade. They're so unhappy and doing these, you know, these whatever to try to stir up, sort of pound the drum on trying to get the movie remade. But looking at Halloween Ends. Are you a fan of Halloween Ends? Do you like it? Did it miss the mark for you? What's your thoughts on Halloween Ends?
I'm a fan of it. Again, I really enjoyed it. I've only watched it a couple times, you know, and oddly enough, you know, I saw it one time in the theater and then I didn't see it again until we got the 4K. So I've only watched it a few times, but on the rewatch, I like it even more. And it's one of those that I said in my initial review, I think this is a film that is polarizing as it's destined to be. And it's not like I didn't know that going in. I think most of us as fans and just today on the internet, if you keep up with this stuff at all, we were kind of prepared that this movie was going to be a little bit different from the get-go. And even though the official marketing, you know, made it all about Michael versus Laurie, I mean, we knew things, even if you weren't looking for spoilers, we knew that things were going to be a little bit weirder, a little bit more different. And so I was open to that. And I was also open to kind of expecting not to like this Corey Cunningham character. I mean, he was mentioned in that very early synopsis that we got. There was one sentence and I obsessed a lot about it when it first came out. Like, this is pretty wild that they're putting this brand new character right up front here. You know, but I kind of took it as like, all right, this is a big hint that this character is going to have a lot to do with this film in particular. But again, after I watched it, even my very first viewing, I found myself liking the character a lot more than I thought I would, liking that element of the story, even though it was going places I didn't see this going. You know, is it weird? Absolutely. But yeah, the more I think about it and it sets, you know, because I think about these films even when I'm not watching them all the time. And I'm reading the novelization right now. I'm kind of getting into that. And there's some very interesting elements in there that didn't make the film. But it's one of those films like Halloween 3 that I do think, and I said this after my initial watch, is while it might be really divisive now, might always be divisive, I do think a decade, 2 decades from now, it's going to be one of those films like H3 that people are really reappraising and looking at, you know, a little more favorably than maybe some are right now. But yeah, it went some surprising places, but I think it's better for it, and I think it's good for it. And yeah, like we've talked about, rewatchability, it's got tons of it.
Absolutely. And, you know, you said something, Austin actually said that on the episode last week. He said 10 years from now, you know, the people are going to be looking at this movie differently. You know,
I think so.
I think it's going to age better. It's like a well-written movie. Like, if you watch it without the expectations that maybe some of the fans had going into it, it's a great movie. And I think maybe once some of that like expectations subversion dies off, people are going to come back and be like, yeah, you know what? It's on its own. It's not bad at all. And in fact, I mean, it made my top 5 in the last episode. So,
and that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, we're both fans of it. And I mentioned this in last week's episode, like when Austin and I sat in the theater and we saw it, it was, I probably got about halfway through the film, 3/4 of the way through the film. And I didn't know a lot about it. I kind of tried to shelter myself a little bit from too many spoilers, but I knew that obviously based on some of the things that, like, I think Jamie Lee Curtis even said, like, it's going to piss people off. It's going to piss off true fans, or she says something along those lines. And I was like, oh man, like I've looked so forward to getting this trilogy. I really hope I'm not one of those people. And we were sitting in the theater and I was like thinking to myself, like, wow, this isn't so bad. I like this. I like what I'm seeing here. Right. And when the movie finished, it was like, I want to see this again. Like we were fans right from the get-go of it. And just because somebody doesn't like it doesn't mean they're not a true fan, because everybody's got their different viewpoints. But for those of us that like it, I mean, also, you know, on the other hand, don't nail us to the cross because we like it either. Like we are, you know, we can all like what we like, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think the way that they really wrapped the franchise up, or at least the trilogy, it was very final, right? There's no coming back from being put in the meat grinder. But as Austin and I have talked about, you know, Michael Myers, he's the James Bond, the Frankenstein, the Dracula, whatever it is. They will find a new way to reinvent him. And I think for the people who are just stuck on this idea that, oh, they killed Michael, how could they kill him? You know, Mustafa said they could never kill him. He'll be back. I promise you, he'll be back.
Yeah. I agree. So, and again, I mean, technically, you go back to Halloween 2 in 81 at the end of that movie. I mean, technically, they killed him at the end of that movie for all intents and purposes, until they decided later, let's retcon that ending and, you know, resurrect him.
There's more money to be made.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I agree. And, you know, it does. I appreciate the movie because I know I get the complaint that there's less Michael than H Kills. But again, we're coming after H Kills, where it is Michael's opera. It is an opera of Myers' massacre, you know, and it's beautiful. I love H Kills for that. So, but we're coming after that, you know, and I sometimes feel like some of the same people that didn't like seeing a weakened Michael in the beginning of HNs, you know, are probably some of the same people that were questioning, well, how could Michael in his 60s take out all these firefighters in half of Haddonfield in one night after being shot and stabbed and all? So, you know, I mean, you're never gonna please everybody, you know, as you guys know. So, but yeah, I mean, I appreciate that they took some swings, and I do think it will age well. I've said before that I think Corey will be remembered more as like a beloved character, kind of like Jamie Lloyd, rather than one of those characters where like the Man in Black, where maybe we could have done without that if you know, it maybe wasn't necessary, but you know, I think he'll be more of a Jamie Lloyd beloved character down the road than maybe the Man in Black, where like it's kind of like, oh, I don't know what they were going to do with that, but I like it, and I have talked to Paul Brad Logan, who wrote the novelization and co-wrote the script with David Gordon Green, and there are other co-writers, and yeah, just hearing him talk about some of what they were going for, a lot of 90s references. They're all around my age, so I think I've talked on our channel that maybe that's a tiny bit of it too, that like a generational thing. They're tapping into something that just my sensibilities gravitate to, and it's interesting to see in a Haddonfield Michael Myers setting. But
right,
and one other thing, I was just gonna say one other thing, and you guys, I'm curious y'all's take on this, because I don't want to take over the show, but
no, you're good, man. No, go for it.
But with HNs, you know, and again, there is a lot less Michael than the previous two movies, obviously. And, he is in kind of this weakened state until he starts killing again and everything. But, and there's this trade-off of power with the Corey character and all. But I feel like in a way, the film is again, kind of leaning into an idea that has kind of been on the outskirts of this franchise and hinted at in previous sequels. The idea that maybe, Jamie Lloyd touching Uncle Michael at the end of H4, maybe something can transfer like that, or even more the idea, maybe even it's something within the mask symbolically. We've seen hints of that here and there. So I'm not mad at him for kind of, doing a spin on that, not really spelling it out, because I think that's part of the magic of this franchise and of the shape is you never want to spell it out too literally.
Right.
I love the Rob Zombie films, but that's what they're there for. They're there for a completely grounded explanation for everything. And I love them for what they are, but that's what they are. They're not John Carpenter's The Shape. That's a Michael Myers story where it's very grounded and very explained. These movies are not that. They're tapping into what Carpenter and Hill wanted, which was a very, hinted at mythological type evil that can't really be fully explained and never fully is. It's just kind of hinted at what it might be or might be capable of. And there's so much of that, I feel like, with Ends. The more I think about it and the more I watch it. And as final as that ending is, let's not forget, what's Laurie write in the book? She says, evil doesn't die, it changes shape. Laurie and Allison are both alive. Allison's leaving Haddonfield. And literally, guys, the last frame of the film, it's that mask on Laurie's table in her house. So I know they're not going to continue this. I don't, but to say that it's, impossible or that they put the final nail in the coffin of The Shape, I wouldn't be so sure. I think they left it pretty open for at least possibilities and theories, and maybe a comic book down the road that continues Allison's story or something. Who knows? But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because it is, less maybe Michael on screen like in Kills, but Michael in The Shape is all over that movie.
You're totally right. I mean, I think that's you hit the nail on the head, and I to your point, and we've all seen Rob Zombie's films. We know that they gave away a lot of the mystery behind the mask of Michael Myers, why he was the way he was. But I do appreciate the other idea of we really just don't know what is driving this guy to just be this stalker, this babysitter killer who's just out there. And why is he stalking Laurie? Is he stalking Laurie because he saw her that in as she was dropping off the key, and he was just like, you're the one, I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to just hunt you down? Or was there something else to it? You obviously have the brother sister thing going on with the second movie where they introduced that. But I think there's so much more. It's so much more fun to have some mystery behind why he's doing what he's doing.
I always describe the franchise as sort of a choose your own adventure way of going about it with the different timelines and everything. And I think what's really interesting about what you just said, Matt, is if you want to go down that route, if that's what appeals to you of the changing shape, they almost did. And I haven't made this connection until you were just talking now, but it's almost like what they were trying to do with Jason Goes to Hell in the weirdest way of this spirit of Michael transitioning. And they definitely left that as a hint when, you get the scene with the eyes, they're looking into each other's eyes. There's something going on there. I like that they left it up to interpretation, because if they would have said, oh, it's because they locked eyes or he wore the mask, I wouldn't have liked that. But if you can think that, that's pretty awesome too.
I agree. I mean, I like that it works on multiple levels, and you can take it at face value, or you can go deeper if you choose. Like you said, I mean, this franchise, as of 2018, I mean, they were always choose your own adventure if you think about it. Like, everybody talks about 2018 being a requel, which it is. But H2O was a requel before, this franchise was doing requels before anybody. And then they did it again in 2018. So that's a requel to a requel. So, but they've been a choose your own adventure for a while. And with 2018, I felt like they just leaned into it and said, this is the way we are forever. We're going to keep reinventing every 5 or 10 years, and that, like a new comic book title. We've seen Batman reinterpreted by different artists and storytellers for decades. I don't see Michael Myers, like you said, he's like Dracula. he's like the Wolfman. He's going to be reinterpreted over and over. And but
and I love that about the series. So. Yeah, I love it. I going back to the last episode again, like we talked about like I would rather have like a sequel that is just, like God bless it, but Halloween Resurrection, it's usually pretty low on people's lists. It's low on both, Austin and my list. I would rather get a Resurrection where I still enjoy it for being a Halloween film. I still love the fact that it's a Michael Myers movie. I would rather get one of those every few years than go a decade or 15 plus years without getting another Halloween film. So just give me Michael. That's all I want, So with that being said, so where do you see the franchise going? Like if you had the keys to the Lamborghini and you were going to drive this thing, I mean, there's been talks about a TV series. There's more movies. You could go back to the like Jamie Lloyd aspect of having 4 and 5 and then obviously 6. Like where do you go? Where do you go with the franchise from here, in your opinion?
That's
a loaded question.
Yeah, it's because there are so many possibilities, like we said. I mean, it's already wild that there's technically 3 different movies with the same title, all titled Halloween within this franchise. That's already pretty wild. Again, where do I think they're going to go? I'm not even going to place my bets anywhere on that, just because, I mean, again, they surprise me at every turn. But I mean, if you were to ask me what I would see, I mean, there is the Jamie Lloyd possibility. And I talked to Danielle Harris about a year ago, and I asked her straight up, and yeah, I mean, she'd be interested at the very least at exploring the idea of reprising that character. And, there'd be a way to do it, kind of like the 2018. Maybe it's 40 years after H4 now, and it's been Jamie who's been locked up, and you requel and discount parts 5 and 6 and all that. It could be a lot of fun. But I really think, again, how this last trilogy did so much for Laurie Strode. I mean, obviously, Michael is Michael, and he is, it solidifies him as ultimate Michael. That's what I always go back to with Kills, is, to me, that's ultimate Michael Myers that we've ever seen in any of those movies. That is just badass. And it elevates him to if anybody was ever questioning that he's not the granddaddy of them all, of all the slashers, well, here you go. But knowing what it did for Laurie and elevating her, I would say, and maybe my whisper to Malik, if I were to have one, would say maybe it's time to go back to another iconic character and another foil for the Shape, which is, of course, Sam Loomis. I'd like to maybe see a prequel series, like set at Smith's Grove, let's say, with a young Sam Loomis. And I don't know if you guys watched the Bates Motel series a few years ago. I actually loved that series, and I loved how it worked kind of as a prequel and also sort of a remix of the whole Psycho mythology and mixed in characters we kind of know in different unexpected ways. And I really liked it. So I would imagine something similar to that, of like, but set in Smith's Grove and set within the world of these different patients coming in from week to week, episode to episode. And you could tell so many interesting stories. You could cover different Halloween nights at Smith's Grove. And I think the key would be stuff that would shape the Loomis that we met in 78, stuff that would shape him into that character. And there'd be so many possibilities. And I would say the other thing would be, don't make it about Michael. Don't even hardly ever feature him, but yet let him be referenced, let him be alluded to. And maybe even, every now and then let him be seen in the corner of a screen, or just kind of lurking, or they walk by room 31 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I could see, HBO Max, or I guess it would probably be Peacock, but somebody like a prestige streaming network like that, doing something like that. That would be so exciting. And I think it would be a fun way to kind of bridge into the next big screen interpretation, where it's not about Michael. It's not a reinvention of Michael in it by any means. It's just a look at a whole set of 15 years. I mean, you could start anywhere within those 15. I'd go really early, probably, like really soon after maybe the 63 events, and maybe even start there in the 60s and have it.
Yeah, that recap of what led into 78. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I love that idea. I think, and I think most fans would like to see that, especially if you like you kind of talked about, like if you still keep the mystery behind Michael, like you're really not, it's not focused on Michael. He's obviously a character. He's obviously present, but it's driving or being driven by Dr. Loomis's character and his backstory and why he became obsessed in a way with obviously Michael Myers and the evil that he thought was within Michael.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
I think there'd be a lot of fun.
No, I think that's a great idea, man. I like, there's obviously so many ideas and we don't have the crystal ball of what they're going to do, but a TV series would be a lot of fun. And I know there's been I feel like there's been reports over the years that they're that close to doing a TV series, but you're right. I mean, with Bates Motel, I mean, that would be a kind of a great avenue or a great platform to kind of stick with those ideas of intermixing, obviously, what we know about these characters already, but introducing some other things that help fill in some of the gaps that maybe they weren't able to do in 1978.
I would think they could even have fun with, incorporating some of the other characters that we know in various ways, or maybe relatives of some of them. Certainly the towns we know, Russellville, and you could incorporate all kinds of fun stuff into there if they wanted to. But I hear them doing, they're putting together the Crystal Lake series, which I'm stoked. And I really, when they announced that, I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. Cause I think they're going to do exactly what we're talking about with that Crystal Lake series. Honestly, I think it's going to be what we just described, only for Jason, where Jason's just not even barely in it, but maybe as a little boy, maybe, in the background, but it'll be more about Pamela and the other comings and goings of the Christies or whatever. I could see all that happening there, but yeah, I could see that being the next place they go. And again, it would be a nice kind of placeholder, because you wouldn't want to run it into the ground and do it for 15 years, although you could. I mean, there's 15 years, you can do as many seasons as you want. I mean, there's 15 years of time there to fill that nobody's ever really, I mean, Rob Zombie touched on it a little bit, but there's so much that you could fill in. And if Michael's truly just sitting there, not saying anything, staring off, then you could focus on a lot of other stuff. Just check in with him every every episode, and he's still not moving. Okay, well, he moved this episode. What?
Yeah, no, I think it's a fantastic idea, and maybe, I mean, Malik, if you're watching this, obviously you heard it here first. This is what the fans want. But no, we maybe he's going to wait to see how the Crystal Lake series does, and kind of base his judgment off of the success of that. And I think it only makes sense that if that is a successful show, which I do imagine it will be, because I'm assuming the three of us will absolutely be watching it because we want to see what's going on.
I'm excited.
Absolutely. And so who knows, maybe he's going to sit there and just kind of hold his cards close to his chest, and then once he sees the success of that, then the wheels may come into motion there.
And I think audiences are more accepting of these new timelines and everything as ever. Matt, it sounds like you're a comic guy from what I can tell, because we're kind of speaking the same language here, because I definitely am. I mean, we've had 3 Batman actors and universes in the last 10 years. We can do this with Michael Myers. It's totally possible. So, any reimagining, reinterpretation, I'm here for it. I'm ready.
Sign us up. That's why we're here. Halloween lives. It lives forever. We want it to live forever, So, Matt, we could sit here and we could chat all night, and I would absolutely love to. We could unpack this series all night long and have all kinds of awesome conversations. Before we let you go, any news or updates on the 45th anniversary convention?
Not too much yet, just other than it is going to happen. I mean, I know it's going to be happening, but yeah, stay tuned, because they're going to be announcing guests very soon, I would imagine. And yeah, we go back to that 40th, and we had such an amazing time at that gathering, because we didn't get to be there for the 35th. But that was a decade ago now, and that was when we were still kind of in the first year or so of HDN, and we started doing a lot of our interviews that year back in 2013. And I have fond memories of that because it was the build up to the 35th. And I wish we had been there. And of course, the 25th and 30th before that. I mean, there's viewers and listeners out there that have been to all of them. And but yeah, we're hoping and looking forward to being there.
That's awesome, man. We're planning on going ourselves, so hopefully, we can get together and meet in person, because I'd love to, sit down and just chat with you again. And I just, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show, being our first guest. Like I said, man, you were at the top of the list. We wanted you to be the first guy, because we felt that there was just going to be a connection and so much we would have in common for obviously our love of the franchise. So we will definitely have you back on the show again in the future, and maybe we can take a deeper dive into some of these movies and talk about them a little bit more. But thank you, seriously, Matt. Thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Keep doing what you're doing. Lord knows we'll be watching and listening and paying attention.
Oh man, you guys are too kind. Thank you guys. It's an honor to be your first guest. I am truly honored to and privileged for that. And this has been a blast. Yeah, I look forward to our next chat.
Awesome. And before you go, give us your social media links or how people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, our main HQ is always HalloweenDailyNews.com, and you can find everything there. But on YouTube, we're also Halloween Daily News. Instagram, Halloween Daily News, Twitter, Halloween Daily, and we even got a TikTok too. It's all Halloween Daily News.
Awesome. Make sure, if you have not been to the website or checked out the social media pages, go take a look, subscribe, like, follow, do everything. Matt, you're awesome, man. We'll be in touch. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me, and happy Halloween.
Absolutely. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Oh, dude, he's awesome. That was sweet. I mean, it's fun to kind of see, like, we've been planning this podcast for a while now, and to see it sort of come to life, and to see some of the things that we had planned happen now. And that was obviously having Matt, because I'm not lying when we were talking about the fact that we wanted to get him on the show first, and I had reached out to him a few weeks ago and just told him, hey, we would love to do this. And obviously thanks to Matt for coming on, because that was awesome. Everything that I expected and more, and we'll definitely, we'll get him on the show again.
Just a wealth of knowledge of the Halloween series, which is awesome. I mean, like, again, if anybody listening has not listened or gone to his website, like, if you like this, you can dive in and go whatever direction you want with him. So
you can, yeah. And the other thing is too, is like he kind of talked about, like, Halloween Daily News is it's obviously Halloween franchise related, but he puts a ton of stuff on there about other horror, movies or shows that are coming out, that kind of thing. So, yeah, super, super cool. Matt was our first guest. We're actually really excited because next week we're going to have another guest on. Again, somebody who was right at the top of our list for people that we wanted to get on. And that's going to be Sandy Johnson, who played Judith Myers in Halloween 1978. So
crazy.
Dude, that's awesome. I mean, Michael Myers is, his first victim is going to be on the podcast next week. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, I'm stoked. Going to have lots of questions, lots of interesting conversation like we had tonight.
Absolutely. One of the things that I was doing today as I was just kind of preparing for the show and things like that, is I was re-listening to Taking Shape, the audiobook. And if you've not read it or listened to the audiobook of Taking Shape or Taking Shape 2, you just have to, because there's so much information put out there about the series and about the different movies. But one of the things that they were talking about in there is the novelization of Halloween and the 1978 movie. And it got me thinking, like, I've never read that book. Have you read the novelization?
So I've read the 3 most recent ones of the David Gordon Green trilogy. And I have those right behind me, which is really interesting because, like, some of the deleted scenes and other parts of the film that didn't make the final cut are in it. But no, I've never read the original, and actually up until recently, I didn't even know there were novelizations of. Oh, really? Yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, dude, there are, and they're freaking expensive. If you look at them on eBay, like, that's probably why I haven't I've searched many bookstores trying to find them because there's got to be copies out there that people just don't know their value or what they're worth. But dude, yeah, check out eBay. They're like $200 plus. Like I saw one. There's one on eBay right now for $1,500 for one book.
Oh my God.
It's insane. But here's the thing is I found the audiobook is on YouTube. Probably not supposed to be, but it is. So for people who haven't read the book and they would like to listen to it, like I'm a big audiobook guy. I like to listen to audiobooks when I'm driving. Yeah. And so I'm going to start listening to that in the next, probably before the next show. But I think at some point in the future, I'd really like to have like a look at how the books are different from the movies, especially that 1978 movie versus the book came out in 79. But I do want to read some really interesting theories behind the first book. And we're not going to do any deep dive into it, here about what we believe to be the case or how the book is different from the movie. But these are some theories, I guess, that the book introduces. And I want to read these to you and just get your initial reaction and take, because you've not obviously read the book and you've not seen this. So I'm going to read you these three different theories that kind of came out of the book. Okay.
Sure.
So theory one, it was a druid curse. And this is in quotes now. The horror started on the eve of Samhain, Samhain, in a foggy vale in Northern Ireland at the dawn of a Celtic race. And once started, it trod into the earth forevermore, wreaking savagery suddenly, swiftly, and with incredible ferocity. So I look at that as it's very similar to obviously Halloween 6, but
right.
What do you think? Like,
it's interesting, especially when you consider the timing of it. So, I mean, obviously it was written probably after the fact of the film. And you're talking, it came out in 79. Halloween 2 came out in 81, correct?
Came out in 81. Yep.
And 81 is the first Samhain reference we get in the Halloween franchise. So it's interesting to kind of see that they were starting to pluck at those strings at that point. And I'd like to kind of think in my mind that, either like Trancas International or somebody, John Carpenter, Deborah Hill, had that sort of nugget of information that was maybe tossed to the author of this, to where they kind of played on that. I don't know if the author went to John and kind of said, hey, can you give me a little bit more? But that's really interesting to see it before Halloween 2.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing, and so we will obviously talk about that a little bit more when we do the review. But yeah, that little seed was planted even before H2 came out in 1981, because the novelization came out in 79. So we're talking a couple years before that. The second theory that I'll read here, it says, young Myers admits to his grandma that he hears voices. Specifically, voices tell me to say I hate people.
Really?
That is in the book. Yeah, in the novelization.
That is interesting. Oh man. So they're kind of playing into a little bit of a psycho, maybe possession type thing there.
Kind of that supernatural aspect, I guess, is coming more onto that. That he's hearing voices. Now, the third theory is probably the most, I don't want to say far out, but it's definitely something that I hadn't really thought about, or, I'd heard or read the Taking Shape book, but I didn't think much on this. But then when I read these theories again today, as I was doing a little bit more research, so I'll read the third theory. It says, Michael's killer instincts may be hereditary. In the book, we find out Michael's great-grandfather, quote unquote, shot a couple to death at a harvest dance on Halloween night, 1898 or 1899. And before he was hanged for the murders, he identified the victims by names he'd heard in his dreams.
Oh, dude. Really weird and so interesting to kind of see these backstories that never really got fleshed out in the films. How interesting. What do you think of that, man?
I like the idea that like whatever is going on with Michael that caused him to snap, like there's more to it, and it was generational in the sense that, if his great grandfather did kill these people on, basically on Halloween, and it was because of dreams that he was having, it lends credibility or theory or, the ideas that Michael had heard these voices, and that was what was driving him to kill. And what's also interesting is in Halloween 6, Mrs. Blankenship, who is the older babysitter in that movie, she says that boy heard voices. I was with him the night he killed his sister, or whatever she says, and he heard voices in that house too. So I like it. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from John Carpenter's movie and really the mystery and intrigue behind just leaving everything sort of in the dark of why Michael was doing what he was doing. But I do kind of like the idea of having some kind of a supernatural theory behind it. Not to say that he's not a man or that he's not a human being, but that there could be something supernatural to it as well. So, I really, we're going to listen to this audiobook that's on YouTube over the next few weeks. And then I want to do an episode on it and break down the differences and then talk about these theories a little bit deeper, because it's really interesting.
And I almost got to wonder too, in the same way that I wonder if there was some sort of nugget of information given to the author there, with the hereditary family thing. I mean, this was before we knew that Laurie was Michael's sibling. Mm-hmm. So you got to wonder too, if maybe that was an idea that was thrown out there to sort of be why he's going after family members too. Just really interesting. And stuff I've never heard before. So that's awesome. No,
like I said, I've not read the book, read Taking Shape, and they talked about it a little bit, but I hadn't really paid much attention to that. And I just, when I heard it, I was like, man, that is super interesting. I want to know more. So we'll absolutely do that in one of the coming episodes and take a deep dive into that. But dude, episode 3 is in the books. We've got episode 4. We'll be recording that here in the next week. And we've got Sandy Johnson coming on the show, and I'm super pumped. I'm super excited. Couldn't be happier to have her on the show. So it's going to be a lot of fun to get to talk to her and maybe find out some more details of things that happened behind the scenes and how she was cast in the film and things like that. So really, really excited, and we're on to the next, man.
Oh yeah, it's going great. Again, thank you everybody who have been motivating and encouraging us as we get this thing lifted off the ground here. Again, the easiest way to support us is completely free. Drop a like, hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and hit us up in the DMs on Instagram or on TikTok or on YouTube, and share some theories with us. And we're here to talk too. We're not scary. We don't bite.
The other thing is too, and that's, we're not scared. We don't bite, but we are fans, and there are things we're going to get wrong. We're going to say things wrong. We're going to get dates wrong. We're going to get character names wrong, whatever that might be. So don't crucify us. We're just fans of the show. I mean, we or the movies, we are going to get things wrong. It's just a platform for us to get out there and talk about some of these things. And, we're always looking for people who want to come on the show as well. So if you're interested, hit us up. We'd love to have you on, but, yeah, man, episode 3 is in the books. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching. This is Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. I am Blaine Duncan, joined by my brother. That's Austin. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.